Hello everyone, it's Superplayer. I decided to create a video guide series for the Paint the Town Red level editor, and this is the first installment. This series will go over all logic related functions and props in the level editor. I can do guides on other functions as well later on. I want to say first that Kersher has made a video on all the logic aspects of the editor already, which is very informational and thorough, so I will link his video in the description as it is an excellent watch. My series aims to go slowly through most small logic aspects of the editor in small videos, with footage of myself showing all the logic properties in the editor of each aspect along with all the keybinds and shortcuts. I noticed some people in the Steam forums wondering what exactly some logic props do in the editor, so I hope to provide extensive explanation on them throughout the series. In today's video, I'll take a look at logic basics, including logic zones, and logic connecting. So without much further talk, let's begin. Logic in the level editor is used for a variety of different purposes. It can be used to determine, for example, when an enemy is supposed to fight the player, when lights are supposed to be turned off or on. It can even be used to animate vehicles and primitives. It is an essential part to a successful level. On the left-hand side of the level editor, you can see the Edit Logic tab, which is where I'll click and select Add Zone. This is the tool that you will use to create logic and end zones in a level. Logic zones will emit a logic pulse to whatever they are connected to when the player touches one. Under this option right here is the Edit Logic tool, but we will go over that later. You can press Tab to switch between these two. So let's create a logic zone by clicking and dragging anywhere on the floor. This logic zone was made without the grid, which gives it a more randomized placement. Clicking G will bring up the level editor grid, which we can use to get a more organized placement. We'll align to the grid tiles. Let's remove the old one here. We'll select the Edit Logic tab up here and click the created logic zone. Separate corners of the logic zone are blue, and they can be dragged around in this state, either mapped to the grid or without the grid. They'll be randomized. The sides can be dragged by holding this Shift key. We'll connect this logic zone to an enemy and a light object to demonstrate the effect of the zone sending a pulse. So I'll spawn in a character right here. I will spawn in a light prop. And now we'll select the logic zone again and press T in order to click the character's white circle here, which will connect the character to the logic zone. Now press T again to connect the zone to the light. Now, logic zones are invisible in game unless their position is marked by something else. So I'm going to place a platform under the logic zone to mark where the logic zone is when playtesting. So we'll drag one out here, and we will make it have a short height. There we go. Now we can playtest the level. So our character is here, and our light is turned on. Now when we touch the logic zone, we'll trigger the enemy and turn the light off. Now we will go over the logic zone properties in the right-hand window and how they work in a level playtest. The Y position of the logic zone is the elevation in the level editor space. So this will change where it is along the vertical axis. The height is just how tall the logic zone is. Starts general combat right here is a check mark that says when the player steps into this logic zone, all enemies in the level that are not connected to their own logic zone will enter the fight. Despite the second enemy not being connected to a logic zone, notice how they will still enter the fight. when I touch the logic zone. When a logic zone has been set to be a level end zone, it will no longer have any of the normal properties associated with a normal logic zone. It will end the level when touched. Trigger on means to trigger the logic zone either by the player touching it or when the player stops touching it. The options are enter and exit. Enter is when the player touches it, and exit is when the player exits it. It will send the logic pulse. The logic toggle effect will determine whether to turn off the connected objects or lights or to turn them on whenever the player steps in and out of the logic zone. The options are toggle, turn on, and turn off. This logic zone in front of me will continually toggle the light on and off. This one will keep the light always off. Logic works once ensures that this logic zone will only send one pulse when activated, and it will not send any more. This logic zone right here is still set to toggle the light on and off. Because it can only trigger once, it will only toggle the light once. The kills enemies option will kill enemies when enemies touch this logic zone, and the kills players option will kill players when they touch the logic zone. The logic zone right here has been set to kill enemies. And this one right here has been set to kill players. Logic zones are important in determining when to trigger certain enemies and to combat at certain times. Placing another logic zone with another character will have the effect of triggering enemies separately. This logic zone will trigger this enemy, but will not trigger that enemy, as they have their own logic zone. That is all the information for logic zones, end zones, and basic logic connections to enemies and props. Thank you for watching.